We'd like to welcome you to our panel today. A man who certainly needs no introduction from me, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Salt Lake FanX would like to welcome to the stage one of the most recognizable faces and one of the most recognizable voices in all of Hollywood today, Mr. Wayne Knight! Now, before we get things kicked off, I do have a friendly PSA reminder that we are in a little bit of a tumultuous time within the entertainment industry. And as of right now, we will not be allowed to answer any questions regarding any specific projects, past, present, or future at this time. So please change your questions, but we might get to know more about you rather than your projects.
How exciting. I know you want to know everything about high school.
You were a football player in high school, were you not?
No, I joined the football team. I was not a football player. The thing is that, you know, when you grow up fat, and you grow up in Georgia, you must play football or be killed. I avoided being killed for 3 years. And then finally I had to go out for football. And I made it. I was an offensive lineman, a defensive tackle, and the worst player on the team. During the first scrimmage game, one of the referees came over to me and he goes, 64? Yes, sir. He says, can I talk to you? I said, yes, sir. He says, you've been offside this entire game. I can't call it every time. You got them jiggly feet. I'm like, that's how I went into acting.
Perfect. Well, Wayne, you have, you have been part of so many game-changing, iconic franchises that have shifted the industry in impossible ways. Tell us your hero's journey. Like, how did you get here?
Well, I think it, you need to be somewhat unique. And I think that when I was first encountered, people hadn't seen one like me at that time. But it also comes from, when you do something comedic, you can either do it in a kind of mild way, or you can do it in the way that I did. And gradually people say, that guy almost exploded, let's bring him back. I don't know.
Well, you have, like we were just talking about, your resume is so long and you work with so many people. You worked with everybody from Jerry Seinfeld to Michael Jordan. Was there anybody that you were intimidated to walk on set with?
Well, believe it or not, it wasn't. As far as Michael Jordan goes and Jerry Seinfeld goes, as actors, they're not necessarily intimidating. I did a movie called Dead Again with Emma Thompson, Ken Branagh, and Derek Jacobi, who are fine British actors. That was intimidating. It was intimidating, but it was great. I think that whatever circumstance you find yourself in, you just kind of go. If you think too hard, you'll be intimidated by just about anything. And if you're too stupid to be scared, you'll be fine.
Well, I know these lovely people don't want to hear me, they want to hear you, so let's just start, open it up to the audience, and we'll go from there. Why don't we start over here? Thank you.
Hi there. What is your favorite soup, including any dippings, bread, anything else that goes along with it?
My favorite soup is called ribollata. It is a Tuscan bread soup. I had it once in Italy, and I've been trying to make it ever since, and just dunking bread in some bean soup and failing.
I told you, these questions are going to be different than what you're probably used to. Let's go over here.
Mr. Knight, I think you're absolutely delicious.
But you know, with that fan on your head, I'm not so happy about that.
You look wonderful, though. Is that your real laugh, or do you ever find yourself having that evil laugh come out of you?
You know, I mean, there is a place where it goes to the other for the evil laugh, but the basic evil laugh is probably mine.
Over here.
Good morning. From your childhood, what one toy do you wish you still had that you have gone looking for that you cannot? What special significance does it have in your life?
I grew up in a small town in Georgia, Cartersville, Georgia, and outside our house, I had this little red trapper that was made out of steel, because toys in those days were things that you could kill several people with. And it had like little pedals on it, and we had a yard that was basically dirt, and you couldn't pedal it anywhere. It was just like, it was the only exercise I ever got in my life. If I had it now, I'd be on a lot healthier.
Right there.
Over here.
Hi, Mr. Knight. I just have to say you are in my favorite movie of all time, and it's such an honor to be able to get to speak with you today.
Thank you.
And my question for you is, can you speak to your journey in acting, more specifically, like how it's been, how it was at the start versus where you are now, and what kept you pursuing acting in different projects?
I think that when I came to acting, you know, out of high school and not knowing what I was doing, and then went to a state university, and there was one man at the state university. There was a guy named Alexander Bardini, who had been the head of the State Theater of Poland in Warsaw, and he came in a guest artist thing to the thing, and we were doing a play, The Irresistible Rise of Arturo Ui, which was a Brecht play about Hitler. And he gave me these little acting hints, these Polish acting hints. Because I snuck into his master class, I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm watching him direct people, and I'm looking at him, and he's directing some woman doing Blanche in Streetcar, and he says, I can tell by Mr. Knight's face, he could play Blanche. I was so interested. So we're doing this play, and he's helping me with this character of the guy's supposed to be Hermann Goering. And he says, you should wear gloves. And I said, why? He says, so you can take them off. One at a time. And he taught me these little nuances of how to dig into a character. And he made it so exciting. It was like, there's a world of things that you could do. And ever since then, it's been like, find it. Find what's in there that's really, really good. And it makes it not mundane.
Thank you so much.
All right, before we continue, just one more reminder. We haven't had this yet, but I just thought of it. Please refrain from asking for any personal favors or hugs or anything like that. I'm sure you guys have all been here before. You've all been to panels. If you haven't, we just don't do that here. So anyway, just a healthy reminder here. Let's go over here.
Hi, Mr. Knight. I just want to say thank you. I burned a hole in my Toy Story 2 DVD when I was a kid. You're one of my favorites. On the topic of toys, I wanted to ask, do you own the Seinfeld Lego set and your own subsequent minifigure?
My wife bought it, but I did not. And she sequestered it so I can't get it and destroy it.
Thank you so much.
my personal opinion, Space Jam is one of the best movies to combine live action and animation. My question is, what was it like working with all those NBA stars, especially Michael Jordan?
Well, I think
That was the specific.
I'm not sure we can answer that.
I'll give you a generalized answer about doing animated films in which there are no actors around you. Imagine if you were in a soundstage the same size, and the entire soundstage was painted green, and there are little red tennis balls along the walls, and the floor is green, and there are people on their hands and knees in green ninja outfits. And there are no props, there are no sets, there's just the camera and you. That's what it was like. Then there were no actors for miles around. But the people playing cartoon characters had to be the same size as the cartoon characters, so they're improv actors from the groundlings who are on all fours trying to be Bugs Bunny, and so it was interesting. Anyway.
I just want to say welcome to FanX, and I love you in Jurassic Park. By the way, have you read Jurassic Park, the novel?
Yes, and I was really surprised at the dinosaur that got me. And the way it got me, because I was waiting to be picked up by my skull and crunched. And instead, some little sucker went,
What do you think my value is?
I'm sorry?
What do you think my value is?
What do I think your value is? Well, gee, I would have to weigh you and assess what minerals you're made out of.
Hello, it's an honor to meet you in Jurassic Park, and to assert two of my top favorite movies of all time. I was wondering, like they said, you have a very long resume. Which character that you have done before do you feel like is the most like you in real life?
Yeah, I don't know if I can either, but I don't know if they're most like me, but what I really enjoyed doing things where I get to not, have a firecracker up my butt. Try to, be a normal person. And I got to do a film that was directed by Gus Van Sant that had Nicole Kidman and Joaquin Phoenix and whatever. And Buck Henry wrote it. I made friends with Buck Henry. And that was one of my best experiences because I was just being the guy who, not the guy who's going to go over the cliff and explode. So it was interesting for me to do.
Just a quick reminder, currently we are not allowed to talk about specific projects, so just keep that in mind when you're asking your questions, please. Yes?
I don't know if this question's okay, but what is your favorite Jurassic Park movie?
The one I was in, I don't see. I don't go to movies that they didn't pay me to do. I mean, it was a big meal and a small dinosaur. Everybody else found a way back in these pictures. You could find a way to bring me back.
First off, honestly, it's a huge honor and privilege to meet you, and our big fans of all of your stuff. So I'd like to ask you, when you're not working in your film career, what would you say is one of your favorite pastimes that you like to do? Just relax and, cool off.
Well, I'm unfortunately fascinated by mixed martial arts at the present time. Embarrassing though it may be. But the wrestling of strangers is really a bad idea. Because I lose every time. And now I got a bad back.
Thank you for being here. I noticed in a lot of the roles that you play, your size was something that was commented on through
Right.
comedy, and that's something that's done a lot. And so what was your way to like keep body positivity through that, even though like your body was being ridiculed in the things you were playing? And how do you think that others watching that can keep body positivity even though the things they're watching ridicule that?
No, I understand that. I mean, it is a difficult kind of line that you draw. I mean, it's a similar line to, you know, if you happen to be Hispanic and you're a drug dealer, if you happen to be black, and you know, I mean, you happen to be fat. And so, can you deal with the idea of a fat actor? If you look at if you look at them as, the problem is that obesity is looked at not as a kind of a malady or disability, it's looked at as just a venal kind of you weak bastard. It's like, hey, bring in the weak bastard! And to give you a case in point, my first professional job, SAG job, was a commercial in Detroit. I was flown from New York to Detroit to do this commercial with Jamie Farr at the time, who was off of MASH. And I'm playing an Indian, and it's Thanksgiving. And I'm wearing like a loincloth thing, and I'm sitting there, and the assistant director comes in and says, "Where's the fat Indian? Get me the fat Indian! Bring in the fat Indian!" You know, I'm like, so, yes, it's been a problem. But what you do is you understand what's inside the character and what made the character overweight. And so the gluttony, the venality, the insecurity, the anger, you play that. And so Nedry gets informed by being that fat. Newman gets informed by being that fat. Newman has insecurities and fears that become funny. Nedry has avarice that he didn't get his, and so that's what makes his character. So instead of thinking that I'm playing fat characters, I use what I have and make the most of it.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go over here.
Hi. What's a movie or TV show that you love that you're surprised that more people don't know about? Or is that something that you can talk about?
I don't know if we can at least name it by title.
No, I can just tell you, no, you know, I can give you something artistic and wonderful,
There you go.
but I'm not. What I'm going to give you is what I have a 12-year-old son. And sometimes the things that we watch together makes me so happy that it endows the show as if it's the greatest show I ever saw. And so, right now, Daredevil was the one that got my son totally juiced. And so we watched all those together. And then when Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox show up here, I must get a photo with them for my son later. And he doesn't care about anything else I'm doing but the fact that I did that. So that's now my favorite show.
I was wondering if you were in Hawaii, and when the hurricane hit in the...
Yeah, well, I got out just before Iniki hit. Kathleen Kennedy was getting people onto like military transports to get them out. I got out just before, it was like a day before all that happened. I still have I Survived Iniki 92 as a t-shirt.
I think we all know what your least favorite dinosaur is, but I was wondering if you could tell us what your favorite dinosaur is.
Well, you know, the problem is that dinosaurs now, my favorite dinosaur is the pigeon. I find that all the dinosaurs, that when we started Jurassic, you know, my cursory knowledge of what was a Brontosaurus, what was a Stegosaurus, none of those names exist anymore. None of those dinosaurs exist anymore. We have colorful dinosaurs with a head that looks like a spoon and feathers. You know, I mean, it's just, what I love is how little we actually know. and how it's become more colorful and interesting. You're like, okay. I don't know what my favorite is, but I like the small ones. Smaller than the Office.
Have you been to the dinosaur museums around
Oh,
here?
yeah. And I don't like it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think we're over here now.
Since you were in that famous basketball movie, I wondered, do you have a favorite team or player, and what makes it your favorite team or player?
Well, right now, my wife is editing a movie for Steph Curry. So that's where I'm going. But the experience of doing Space Jam, the best part of that was when these guys are hanging around and shooting the breeze with each other. And you see people as people, not as basketball players. One of the things I made sure of doing when I was doing Space Jam is to never touch a basketball. Never roll it, toss it, throw it, never be near it. Because I wanted to be the pro from Dover. I'm the actor. You're the basketball player. I'm not going to pretend to have any knowledge of what you do. And the other thing that was shocking is when, Michael was there, they had a whole gym made for him to work out in while he was shooting. And he was in incredible shape. And there's a muscle in the back of his calf. I've never seen that muscle. In between the calf muscles was another muscle, which I call the Schmoing muscle. That was surprising to me.
Over here.
First off, I have to say, Newman.
All right, take her out.
Okay, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I have to ask it. Are you an anti-dental?
No, not in the least, because, I went through a period of time where I was, trying to lose weight and doing all kinds of stuff with my stomach. I got a lot of acid over. My dentist said to me, he says, look, I want to ask you a question. I said, just a simple question. He said, yes or no? I'm like, no, okay. He says, are you on crack? I'm like, it's like, because your teeth are horrible here. So he fixed me up, and I have a better diet now. And so I appreciate the work of dentists.
Do you prefer working on movies or TV shows, and why?
Well, films the things about films is immortality. As much as we get as humans, because not a lot of people are sitting around watching Rudolph Valentino films at the moment, but you feel like you're getting immortality. But the process is a very slow process, and it is an additive process where you add little bits of the character as you go, and then try to remember where you are in the timeline and how that plays. Television, especially sitcoms, is stealing. If you have comedic ability and you have a good show, you come to the table, you have a funny script, you start rehearsing that day, you have 4 days. On the 5th day, you put on the show, you have 2 takes to do it, there's a live audience there laughing at it, and you're done. It is the easiest, most pleasant way of working for me. And I thoroughly enjoyed every sitcom I was on.
Go ahead.
So my question is if you watch a movie or a TV show that you are in, do you quote yourself?
I can't remember a single word I've ever said. No, seriously, I did a play on Broadway where I had a 5-minute monologue at rapid pace. And I had to memorize it to the point where, and I had a quick change right before I had to give the monologue. And I would run the entire monologue in my head during the quick change. at super speed so that I could have it. And I had it every night, never went up, everything was fine. The minute the play was over, it completely went away. I think I have maybe a walnut-sized brain, and I only have room for the current stuff. I don't have a lot of room for the others.
I was wondering if you could go back in time and give younger you any advice before going into show business. What would you tell yourself?
When I first started out, I had unreasonable hope. I went to New York with $300. I didn't know where I was going to stay. Within a year and a half, I was on Broadway. I had no agent. I had no connections. I saw a play. I said, I can do that role. I made up a resume. I brought a picture. I walked down the stage alley to the stage door, knocked on the door, handed the picture and resume to the stage manager. 3 months later, they called me in, and I got it. This comes from stupidity. And what I would advocate for every young actor is don't be so effing smart. You think you know everything. You don't. Take chances that you don't think you'll win at, and you might win.
They told you not to do, or that made the final cut, or things like that?
Well, there are very few things improvised in Seinfeld because Larry David, and Larry David is, not someone to trifle with in terms of the word. There are a couple of ad-libs, like "Oh, the Humanity" was an ad-lib. And then the Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes Day, and then Barcode Reader Breaks, that was an ad-lib. As far as voiceover goes, you do get a chance in certain venues to ad-lib. And especially, like when we were doing, I was doing Cat Scratch with Maurice LaMarche and Rob Paulson. That's an avenue because these guys are so facile and easy that you can play around and have some stuff. And also, when you're in a room on a script animation show, like a daytime show, all the actors are usually in the room. So if somebody throws a line, somebody else can throw a line, but it's difficult because you're trying to get the voices in the clear and you don't want them to overlap. So ad-libbing, you're going to have to repeat, and it's not really going to be an ad-lib. Most of that ad-libbing stuff and improv stuff is improv. So I've done improv as improv and done some improv shows, but the rest of the time, the best thing you can do is make the script live.
Thank you.
All right, let's go over here. I was just curious if you have any personal feelings on who killed JFK?
I don't have any personal feelings. The guy did what he had to do, but no, you know what? I was so, doing that film, I was so inundated with information. There was, volumes on volumes on volumes of bars and meeting Jim Garrison and talking to the guy I was actually playing, William Bartell, and, I realized that what we're talking about is a cloud of obfuscation, and that any clear pattern probably is false. But what the actual pattern is, I don't know.
Mr. Knight, I got here a little late, so apologies if this has already been asked, but did you ever get any feedback from the U.S. Post Office regarding your portrayal as Newman?
You know what's so strange is that so many letter carriers are so miserable, working their asses off, then they're really happy that someone, kind of beat the system. So they can only come to me.
So I was just wondering if you and Kristen Johnston have such a great on-screen chemistry. I was wondering if you have any favorite memories of working with her on-screen or off-screen.
Well, Kristen, I think Kristen's a fascinating person because she's incredibly talented and really funny. And can be at the drop of a hat. I think the thing that when we were doing the X's, she had really some health difficulties at one point and basically had a hard time sitting up for a brief period. Strange little LA. We shot the show anyway. They propped her up. She leaned on her head. That's who she is. So she's indomitable. That's my take on Kristen.
You've worked in a variety of different genres over your career, and I was wondering if there's a certain genre that you haven't been in that you would like to be in.
I find modern dance something I'm not going to do. Now that my back is allowed, there was a time, but no, I think it's a fact. But as far as the genres go, one of the genres that I have been involved in and that I really loved, but don't get a lot of credit for, is theater. That's where I began. I began on the East Coast and worked my way to New York and never thought I was going to leave. And then after 15 years in New York and realizing that I didn't have two nickels to rub together, after my best year, I was on Broadway, I was at the Public Theater, and I was at Lincoln Center. I had no money. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to Los Angeles. There's no venue that I have. I'm trying to write a book about my experiences as a private investigator. I spent 5 years as a private eye in New York. While I was they liked a whole other panel right there. They liked hiring actors because they weren't upwardly mobile. They wanted to get out for auditions. They didn't want full work, and they had no scruples. It was perfect, But so I had a detective agency that was training actors to be PIs. And so I had a couple of pals for actors there, and there were young women there using them as honey traps for other people. It was just a fascinating, bizarre place to work, and I've been working on that. So hopefully the script of that and the novelization of that will be the thing that I'm doing as the next genre. Well, it all depends on what it lends. It lends itself to a series. There's somebody pay me and then we'll talk.
I think we're over here.
Hi, thank you for being here. I was just curious about stunt doubles, and if you ever used a stunt double or have had ones that have followed you from different shows.
Well, most of them are dead now. No, I haven't. It's not like a Wayne Knight action hero. Get Vic, and if Vic's not available, get Fred. On Jurassic Park, first of all, it's a matter of finding somebody who's got the right weight and is short enough. But the guy in Jurassic Park, I kept waiting for him to take more of the stuff. Well, you're going to do that one? Oh, you're not? Oh. He's going there, right? No, he's not. Oh, okay. The waterfall, I'm going, oh, okay. What about falling face first? Oh, that's me too. Okay. No. It's not like they have to save the face.
how have you seen Jurassic Park affect science and geology specifically?
Well, I think that, one of the things that happened when we did Jurassic Park is we got a plaque from a society that was a paleontology society naming a dinosaur after the cast, each member of the cast. And what it created was this interest in paleontology that caused people, there are digs going on now from kids who saw that movie who are now in the field. And more discoveries are happening. And I think all of that, the popularization of DNA has taken off to benefit, to good and bad. All of these films, as we get into CGI, which brings us into AI, which brings us into, we don't know where any of this stuff leads. But entertainment first captures the zeitgeist and makes people think about it. Then they want to do it. So that's what I think.
I'm curious about your voice-over work. How is that different in approaching voiceovers than film, theater, or any type of visual thing? How do you approach a voice-over role? What makes it successful? How does it work? How is the interaction different?
Well, the thing about, there are two areas where voiceover and television are similar. Let me run it down in terms of rehearsal. When you do a play, you take weeks to rehearse. So the things you do when you start are nowhere near where you're going to be when you finish. You're exploring the role and seeing where it goes and trying to understand how it fits. When you do a movie, you're coming up with an audition that you take the time to give a full character, then you present that to the director, and then you get the role, and the director says, I love this part of it, but that's not really what we're talking about here. And then he begins, or she begins to shape what you're coming up with, and it changes, if you have rehearsal, a little bit, otherwise on the day, as you're doing the take. In television, you make a snap decision. This is what this character is, this is how it's going to be played, this is who he is. And then when you do the table read, you do it full. They want to hear the end result. And then if it gets changed a little. If it works, or you get fired. In voiceover, it's very similar. You read the script. You decide what it is about your voice that would lend itself to this character, or an accent, or a tone, or a feel. And then you embody the character, and you do it fully, as if you were already on camera. And then when they hear it, they piece it in their mind with other voices, and they go, yeah. And so when you are doing the voiceover, they give you very little. Usually they're saying, right now he's reaching up, here he's climbing over a thing. They give you the actions of the character, but they don't really deal with the voice. Because if they've cast you, that's the voice.
All right, looks like we got a little one over here.
Why were you a bad guy in Jurassic Park?
Why?
Yeah, why were you a bad guy?
I wasn't. I was underpaid. What I should have done is strike, but instead of striking, I stole some embryos.
With the news of you having experience with PI work, it might influence my question that I had, but as an actor, sometimes roles don't come, and I was going to ask about a job that you maybe were reluctant to have to take on to pay the bills, and how is that mentally, know I had success here, but maybe there's a dry spot?
Well, you know, I went back to being a PI after I went to England to do a sketch comedy show with Emma Thompson. When it ended, I came back and went back to work as a private investigator. I worked in a restaurant, and I went to Broadway. When I came back, I got the job as a private investigator. My worst one of those jobs was selling pound cakes and fruit cakes in Harlem. For school, there was a guy in Georgia says, I got a lead. This high school has had all of their sports equipment stolen. They desperately need to sell something for fundraising. They're willing to take the fruitcakes. I'm like, they're going to take the fruitcakes? Nobody takes the fruitcakes. They're going to take the fruitcakes. So I went up to the high school, and I'm wearing a stupid little jacket, and I got a briefcase, and I go through the metal detector, and I get escorted to the class, and they're looking at me like, you better have something good. And I told them how much profit they could make. And they bought every fruitcake. And I was a hero of the school, and the school won their championship that year. So now I visit that high school, and I'm very proud of the work that I do. Over here.
What's been your favorite experience with a fan and your least favorite experience with a fan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't categorize that stuff really, because anytime you encounter somebody, it's usually the first time they're encountering you. So if you are judging them, you're an asshole. I just played one on TV.
Okay, hi. I see a lot of myself in your character in Toy Story 2.
I'm so sorry.
So I'm curious, how much of Wing Night, how much of you do you bring to a character, and how do you balance?
Well, first of all, that character was not supposed to look like me in any way. I was not told that he was going to look like me at all. And I didn't even I never had a goatee. Now I do. I mean, I think you bring your own sensibility of, like, how would I be devilish? How would I be sneaky? How would I be? And then that becomes that character. I think that I've used a lot of myself, whereas a lot of other actors immerse themselves and vanish into a character, and I don't quite do that. I mean, I wish I did. I have in certain circumstances, but in general, you know, I try to use what I got. Thank you.
I'm sure you don't want to spoil too much for your upcoming book, movie, show, whatever it ends up being, but do you have any pulpy, gumshoe detective stories you would like to share with us?
Yeah, you only have a whole camera.
Let's see. Well, I had one situation where we had, this guy was an arbitrageur, a very big dude, and he had an Irish au pair who was working in his house, taking care of his children. And he convinced his wife that she was too smart to be working in the house, that she should work at the office, where it could be beneficial to her, and she could maybe have a future career. So she did. Of course, the man had an affair with the au pair. Unfortunately, she's a good Catholic Irish girl and did not want to do anything to subvert the direction that her body was taking her in. Suddenly, the detective agency is being hired by a bunch of people. He hires us. Well, first of all, the wife gets wind of this. And he tells the wife, I'm going to have to be with you 4 days a week, her 3 days a week to keep her chilled out so that nothing bad happens. He puts her up in an apartment in Red Hook in Brooklyn. We're hired by the wife to follow the girl, because if she cheats on the husband, he could leave her. that would be beneficial to the wife. While the husband is visiting the girl, he sees the wife. We are hired by the husband to follow the wife. I am, meanwhile, the head of the detective agency is seeing the wife a little too frequently and begins an affair with the wife. I am hired to follow the girl. So I'm following the girl. I'm in a car in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and I got like a six-pack of Diet Coke or something under the car because it's February and drizzly and miserable. Got the heat on and they're drinking. And then she gets out of, I gotta follow her. So it's raining and miserable, I'm following. And in those days it's walkie-talkie. Coming around. Okay, all right. Follow her into a restaurant. I can't go in the restaurant, so I'm standing in the drizzle outside the restaurant, watching inside the restaurant. Yeah, you should know it. So I go in, I'm sitting dripping wet. She's the nicest girl in the world. She's never done anything wrong. I follow her back to her apartment. It's 2 in the morning now. I'm standing under a street light in Brooklyn. There's a 3-legged dog walks by. I think to myself, this ain't it. That's detective-ing.
I think we have time for 2 more for fast. 2 more for fast. Over here.
His Nedry died in the Michael Crichton book, and are you happy that they can film that with you?
No, I wanted them to film that with me. I mean, that would be the best, you know, lifted by get your skull crunched and all that other, instead of that goop being shot into my face. I think that the idea that that would be too scary or too, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it worked out both ways, except for the fact that, as I've said many times, the guy who shot me in the face with the goop lives across the street from me, and he's got a nicer house than I do. Should understand this.
Yeah. Over here. This will probably be our last one.
When did you start doing acting and why?
I started professionally right out of college. In between, after my freshman year in college, I got my first professional job in an outdoor drama, a symphonic drama called Drum Beats in Georgia. I got paid $70 a week and room and board. I thought I was the king of the world. I played the Prime Minister of England in the first act and a settler named Ray Demery in the second act. I was so excited. But I think I started doing it because you can be seen the way you would like to be seen as an actor. You can play any kind of part. The world is open to you. You weren't trapped by yourself. And that seemed exciting to me.
Awesome.